Hello, everybody, and welcome to the MedTech Jam Session. It's Masters Week here at the MedTech Jam Session, so all of our comments are going to be in the voice of Jim Nance. All right, that's my best Jim Nance impression. But you can see I've got my Masters hat and my Masters shirt, and as soon as we're done here, I'm going to go watch the Masters.
There you go.
Welcome back, Chris. Welcome to the
MedTech
Jam Session with Chris and Mike D. It's great to get back into the studio with you. We have a great guest, Tim McCown from Spinal Simplicity. We're looking forward to hearing more from him and having him share his vision of spinal surgery and where they want to take the company. I'm super excited to learn more. But
Absolutely.
First, Chris, we're here. It's April 10th on the recording date, so this will probably roll out, 3 weeks later. So who knows what it'll be like then. But I was having a conversation yesterday with a former colleague and a good friend of mine who's at a, let's call it mid-size orthopedic company, publicly traded.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, one of the things that we're concerned about just from an operational standpoint and an expense standpoint is what's going to happen with all these new tariffs. So I'm curious, how should operating executives just be thinking about the known unknown of tariffs and plan accordingly in your mind?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's an interesting perspective because there's a behavior that's already been set to keep everybody on their toes. When we went through COVID, strategically planning day to day, week to week changed to something that we'd never had to do, right? And to be that engaged and that involved and watching, right? To your point, I doubt even by the time this airs, there's going to be great clarity. But it's the same behavior pattern that any executives need to kick into. It doesn't matter the size of the company even. And I think that what's going to happen is they're going to have to be laser focused on strategy, making sure that they're in constant communication relative to suppliers, supply chain, whether it's end item products, whether it's the smallest thing that makes the whole engine work. And so it's hard to say. Nobody knows the absolute outcome here. I can tell you that I know from the investor side of things that the VCs are like, because they just don't know, right? And so it throws that into a state of shock, for lack of a better term, while you're waiting to see how it plays out.
Exactly.
But my 2 cents is strategic focus and heavy communication is paramount again.
Yeah, I think you've got to stay connected with your vendors. And as you're setting up your supply chain, it's probably smart to just be mindful of keeping it as efficient as possible. Having too many vendors, maybe chasing the lowest price at all costs. Maybe that's not the smartest move. Maybe you should be thinking about the risk associated with having too many vendors, having vendors that may be in countries that could be subject to tariffs. Most of these companies, if they've been around for a while, to your point, Chris, struggled with supply chain challenges during COVID. So hopefully they've got their supply chains fit, just like companies have to get fit now and be focused more on EBITDA than maybe top line revenue. Yeah, they should be focusing on having a steady supply chain that is consistent. And anyway, it'll be interesting to see. We'll be watching this play out very closely and hopefully learning from our guests over the next several weeks how they're handling this.
Absolutely, because I think one of the things is this becomes a refining opportunity, in my opinion. There's a you got to see the silver lining, and it's there, right? As all these companies are building, growing, eventually wanting to exit or whatever their end game is,
Right.
If there's things in the system that force you to pay more attention, that force you to streamline, that's not a negative. And so that's one of those things where it's like, make the business, take the opportunity because everybody is right now, and make your business better than it was a week ago.
Yeah. Baby steps.
Yep.
But company fitness and P&L fitness and supply chain management are really important, particularly, and they become increasingly important with the unknown of these tariffs. So we'll see how it plays out. Yeah. All right, Chris, I'll let you introduce our guest.
All right. I want to definitely excited about this one big time. Spinal Simplicity, Tim McCown. Tim literally is the right-hand man to Todd Mosley. But these two guys together are inseparable as a powerhouse as it relates to what they're doing and the team that they're doing it with. It's been impressive to be very close to the fire, to see not only what they have done and how well they've done it and the mistakes and the learnings and everything else that come along with it, but to be as successful as they are now at this point and helping many patients, not only from a standpoint of SI fusion, but also from a standpoint of implant stability for the lumbar. And so it's exciting to see what they've got going, and it's also exciting to know what will come.
Well, we're so excited to have them. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Tim McCown to the MedTech Jam Session studio. Hey, Tim.
Hey, guys. How you doing? Chris, that was the nicest introduction. I need you to just put that on a recording so I can play that for my wife every time I come home.
This is exactly. It's like, just remember what Chris said. Just remember.
No, that was very kind of you. I'm going to tell you, fellas, right out of the chute, I'm a little disappointed that we're not recording this live off a fairway at the Masters. Mike, that's what was promised to me. That's what Chris said was going to happen. And yet here we are sitting in our offices. Not what I was told was going to happen.
So, Tim, you and I chatted about this beforehand, that the Masters is on your bucket list. I will tell you, you cannot go into Augusta National with a phone.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I read a journal article about that today, about all the finance bro guys that the markets were crashing in practice sessions and they weren't even aware of it.
Yeah, just leave it behind and enjoy the setting. It's amazing. If you're a golfer, and you'll never see grass so green as you'll see at Augusta National. Anyway,
someday.
All right, Tim, why don't you introduce yourself and just give us a little bit of a background of what you're doing at Spinal Simplicity. We'd love to hear a little bit about your story and your background.
Sure. No, guys, thank you very much for the opportunity to be on. It's exciting to be with both y'all that have a ton of industry knowledge and experience. And it's, I think, a fun and probably needed format. You have a chance to provide a voice for a lot of the small entrepreneurial startup companies. There's a lot of those guys and gals out there that want to hear about what's going right and what's going wrong and how are other people thinking about businesses. And it's both validating and provide some direction. So I appreciate the opportunity to participate with y'all. So I'm Tim McCown. I'm our Chief Operating Officer here at Spinal Simplicity. Work closely with Todd Mosley, our CEO. Spinal Simplicity is a company that is headquartered in the future, Mike, it's the future hotbed of med device in Overland Park, Kansas, and right here in the Midwest. So we're not out on the West Coast, or we're not Boston-based firms. That's a little bit different. Spinal Simplicity really started as a single device, pure spine play company, and over the years has really evolved to be more agnostic to the call point that we have, that whether that's a surgeon or interventional pain physician, and it's evolved into a multi-product company. And it's really more of a sales channel kind of company than it is a specific device company. So I've got the privilege of being here for the last 5 years, roughly. I'll always just be the first to raise my hand and say, thank you, Lord. I was a lucky son of a gun that I had this ongoing relationship with Todd Mosley and got to be our 6th or 7th employee. The company just get going with some sales and join right at the beginning of that hockey stick growth curve. And Mike, I'd love to take all the credit and none of the blame, but I think I was just at the right place at the right time. And so it's been a fun journey as a company. We feel like we're just getting started. Learned a lot of very difficult, painful, expensive lessons along the way. And feel like I've still got a ton more to learn. So,
well, tell us a little bit first about the company was being founded. What were the clinical problems you were looking to solve? Yeah. How did you see yourself being different than all of the both big and small spine companies that are out there? Because it's a competitive market, as you well know.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And we talk about this sometimes as a company, almost to the point you go, I don't even know if I want to put spine or spinal in my company name, because everybody, both from a patient standpoint, has had a bad experience with spine surgery, right? Everybody has, or somebody that knows somebody. And every investor, which is probably where my mind was going as our operating officer, every investor has had a bad experience in spine. And so I feel like you're immediately coming out of the chute going, well, let me explain why this is not spine. For us, it is unique, differentiated, IP protected technologies. I'm not interested, our company's not interested in building the next great tulip head or pedicle screw and rod system. I think what we're looking for is something that provides great value for the payer, the patient, and the physician. So for us, we landed in a space as the company was being started of how can we do posterior instrumentation, spinal fusion in a way that is patient-centric, but also is going to have the opportunity to be reimbursed and add value for that whole chain there. The team landed on, Todd and his co-founder, Dr. Harold Hess, landed on this interlaminar interspinal posterior fusion device that has a really unique surgical technique and approach in that it is completely sparing of both the posterior ligature and musculature, specifically the supraspinous ligament. That really is, from our philosophy, do as little disruption, as little damage as you can, keep those God-given intact structures where they're supposed to be. And so that was really the origin. Provide patients a solution to something that is traditionally a overnight stay in a hospital, it's opioid use, it's physical therapy, but do it in an outpatient setting with minimal recovery time, minimal opioid use, minimal PT.
Hi, listeners. As a medtech leader, you know how hard it is to scale up your sales team and prepare them for a successful product launch. If your reps are still digging through cumbersome shared drives and web portals, clicking through an LMS that no one uses, or relying on email newsletters to stay current, it's time for a change. Your reps, they're on the move. They need on-the-go content and a single source of truth. And that's where Convey Connect comes in. It's a mobile-first, company-branded app that gives your sales team instant access to training, sales tools, and company updates all in one place. At Convey Connect, we can have your customized, white-labeled mobile app deployed to the app stores in just a few weeks, so your sales team is resourced and aligned to win. So if you're scaling your team or prepping for a big launch, please check out conveymed.io, schedule a quick demo. We would love to show it to you. So now back to the show.
That's great. One quick question, Tim, as you think about that, because it is very different. And that's why this company falls into my category of being disruptive. When I think about the right patient for this, who is that right patient? Is it the patient that shows up and they've got degenerative disc disease at this level, that level? Educate everybody a little bit as to where's the sweet spot of that right patient for the minute.
Yeah. So thank you. I think I'll say right out of the chute here, Chris, that, man, we sell both at the interventional pain call point and at the surgeon call point. And I don't think that there's a lot of interventional pain companies saying this. Maybe there are a few, but boy, there is definitely a need for both our surgeon partners and our interventional pain partners. And we typically fall a little bit earlier in that treatment algorithm for that patient. And I don't want to, for 1 second, make a claim that the Minuteman is right for every patient. Thank you, Lord, for all of our surgeons who can treat these big spinal deformities. And that's not the mark. For us, it is patients that, as they've aged, our typical patient age is probably 71, Chris, so a little bit older. As they've aged, they've lost some disc height. Their vertebral bodies are maybe have some spondy in them. They have some central canal or lateral recessive foraminal stenosis. They're in back pain. They're in leg pain. Often are not candidates for traditional surgery, meaning they have comorbidities, their age, the anesthesia risk for them. And so a lot of those patients, not all of them, but a lot of them end up in interventional pain office or even our surgeon offices looking for a solution that is not a 2-level or a 3-level or even a 1-level 360 anterior construct, posterior instrumentation. They want a solution that gets them back to mobility, back to freedom faster. And that's really the market that we've played in. Not for everybody. You got to select that patient correctly, but there is a big population that is looking for that.
Yes. Thanks for the answer. That's perfect.
I'm curious, you talk about indication and kind of where you fit on the spectrum. How are you guys thinking about the impact or potential impact of the GLP-1 drugs on the patient population? I would tell you, Tim, in my previous life, going way back. I care not to talk about how long ago this was. I was a physical therapist. And I took care of a lot of patients who had both non-operative and operative back problems. And gosh, what a nightmare. Either way.
Yeah.
And one of the ways in which we would coach people to try to reduce their pain was to lose weight. Because if you can reduce the stress and strain on the spine, then chances are you're going to have some reduced pain. And so it does seem like there's an opportunity for these GLP-1s to treat as a secondary effect spinal conditions. Are you guys thinking about that, or how do you see that playing out in the next several years?
Yeah. We think the GLP-1 revolution is really interesting, whether that's Ozempic or Mounjaro or any of the semaglutides. There's something going on. I think the jury is a little bit still out on what are going to be the long-term implications and consequences of that. You're seeing some that slowing gastric emptying. You're seeing some surgical complications because of that. The ASA just came out and said, hey, the new standard is that you're going to be off your GLP-1s for at least a week, if not 2 weeks before, because they found that the patients were aspirating during intubation. Yeah, I think that was interesting. Now, that's a small warning, right? A small use case, if you will.
Sure.
Not positive what the implications are for bone density, for overall health. But in general, we look at it and go, for sure, if you don't have to have surgery, you don't have to have implants put in your body, that's a win. And I think everybody would say weight loss has got to be the number one issue for that, whether that's total joints or whether it's Spinal Simplicity's Minuteman. And so I think we're excited for the patients that there may be a solution that lose some weight and maybe your back doesn't hurt as bad. I think at least in the US, Mike, that is the end all be all, that is going to put all device companies, you don't need any more total knees because everybody's losing weight.
Right.
I don't think we know that yet. I don't know. How are you all thinking about it? How are you guys
That's
thinking?
a good question. Here's what I think. I agree with everything you said. The other side could be this: if patients who take these GLP-1s lose weight and are more active, they may generate, because arthritis and other conditions are influenced by weight, but also influenced by activity.
Absolutely.
And so if they're more active, then perhaps their arthritic process may accelerate. So I just think there's a lot of factors. And to your point, Tim, I don't think we know, but I think it's an important factor and variable to be mindful of.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think it may neutralize, Mike, to your point. You're going to have the weight loss element of it, but you're not taking, especially away from a lifestyle issue, from a hereditary issue, from a what have you done in the past issue. And the question is, it'd be really interesting to see if there's any direct or indirect effect of GLP-1s as it relates to OA progression or not. Somebody needs to do that.
Yeah, that's going to be a longer term study, but
you're
right. I think you're right. That's interesting. Well, Tim, why don't you talk a little bit about the journey of building the company?
Yeah.
How you capitalized it, how you scaled it, how you thought through your portfolio approach. I think our listeners would love to hear how you've scaled Spinal Simplicity to where it is today.
No, Mike, thank you. And listen, I will talk for 30 minutes about it. So cut me off part of the way and make sure we're going the direction that is helpful for your audience. But man, when I think about where we've come from, where we want to go, I guess the word that you said there, journey, stands out to me. Man, it is definitely a journey. And I am positive that we've done a ton of things wrong in that. I think we've done hopefully more things right along the way, but we've done a lot wrong. And so maybe let's just pick on, you mentioned and asked about just funding and what that strategy was. Maybe that's a good place to start. But one of the things that I made a mistake in for sure early in my career at startups was I was asking the wrong question when it came to fundraising. I was always starting with, how little money do we have to raise? What is the minimum that we have to raise? And there was a much wiser, experienced guy in my career that said, McCown, you're asking the wrong question. The right question is, what is the right amount of money to raise? Because I just looked at it as it's dilutive. And any dilution is a bad thing. And so don't go raise money. And so if I could go do it all over again, and fortunately we get the opportunity to continue to raise here at Spinal Simplicity and do get to do it again, we don't ask that question anymore. How little can we raise? We ask, what is the right amount to raise for the next inflection point? So for us, we've been a little bit unique in our funding story that until March of last year, we had been entirely funded by friends and family rounds. We had not taken any institutional dollars. And so we raised in the life of the company well north of $50 million just with friends and family. And I think it's a little bit different, Mike. It's not the easy way to go about it, for sure. It is a countless number of Zoom or team calls, investor engagement and relationships and meetings, and your average check size is relatively small. But what it did do for us is it kept us connected and close with what the investor community was interested in and how they were thinking about it. I think it kept us pretty sharp on how to fundraise. And then in March of 24, we partnered with Morgan Stanley. And so we said, if we're going to go institutional, I think we were at that point that we were ready and wanted to do that. Let's go with the biggest and baddest group that you could find. And we're really grateful to partner with those guys. But I think the other thing I would tell, if you have maybe some younger entrepreneurs that are on, is that you always hear that old mantra of it just takes more money than you think, and it takes twice as long as you think. People say that for a reason. And it's 9 times out of 10, it's true, and it's painful. It does go slower than you think, and it takes longer than you think. I remember listening to, I think it was Mike Mogul. You guys know Mike at Health Point. And it might have been an MNBC. I can't remember where it was, but he said, we've kept track over the years of every company that has shown us their projections and then how they actually performed against their projections. And Mike will, maybe I'll have him on the show sometime. He'll have to tell you the story, but it's something like they've never seen it, or it's 1 out of 100. It's a ridiculously low number that people were within even 40% of what their revenue projections were. So I think being optimistic about what your revenue growth and run rate is going to be, and being optimistic about how much cash it is going to take. And the sophisticated, you guys both know this, Chris, you're talking with VCs all the time with your consulting group, but the sophisticated VCs can smell BS, I think, pretty darn quick. And then they look at 100% year over year growth. They're just going, guys, maybe you're the 1 out of 10,000 that can pull it off. I'd say be realistic in what your projections are, raise more than you think, and know that it's probably going to take longer.
Absolutely. And I think I want to echo your point on the fact of dilution, right? I deal with a lot of different folks over a lot of different areas and sectors of musculoskeletal. And that is probably one of the most important things for them to understand is dilution is going to happen. You came with an idea. You're accelerating the idea. You're building a business. If things remain the same in terms of your ownership, you've done something wrong along the way, in my opinion. You're not raising fast enough, or you're not growing fast enough. But it's kudos to you guys to be able to save friends and family up to 50 million. And the power in that that's the way you do it as best as possible, is you go to the lower hanging fruit. Does it take more time? Yes. Does it take more on the cap table? Yes. But eventually you come along with a partner like a Morgan Stanley, and who brings a phenomenal vehicle to the table relative to continuing to take that business from growth to growth, right? You know exactly what I mean, because that is what you guys are living right now.
You're exactly right. And we always tell our investors, but you have to preach this inside of your own management team. Guys, dilution is not a 4-letter word. It's not necessarily bad. What we should be talking about is, what does that get us to? If it's dilution for dilution's sake, it's pretty nasty. If it's dilution because we're increasing the pie size, all right, that's pretty good. If that's what's necessary to get us from here to there. And so I'm sure most companies do this, but we run, for every dollar that we raise, or every round you're launching, we do an analysis on, okay, we're going to take this, here's the dilutive impact, and this is what it means on a exit value or enterprise value that you have to increase. So guys, does the $10 million get you at least, if it's 10% dilution, does it get you at least a 10% larger exit? And so we ask that, I guess, at the beginning of every single.
But that's a great. That's a good practice. And those are unknowns, guys. I mean, to both of you, those are unknowns relative to those that are either just starting and are just ramping up animal studies, or they're just ramping up those. That's a key point that you bring up, Tim.
Tim, I want to hear a little bit about your go-to-market strategy. You guys are post-revenue. You're growing the business, scaling it. I'm curious to know, when you were thinking back at the time of your first product launch, how you were thinking about going to market, whether from a channel perspective, from a sales and marketing perspective. And did you stick with that, or did you pivot and adjust? Walk us through your go-to-market and what you learned during that process? Because that usually presents some additional interesting
Sure.
challenges.
Yeah. I think I mentioned there early in our conversation, originally, the company was founded as a pure spine play. So that meant for us, the call point was ortho and neurosurgeons.
Yep.
And we were selling, guys, this is a better way to do your posterior fixation. Use it standalone, and specifically the Minuteman. That was our only product at the time. Use it standalone, use it to back up whatever you do in the anterior column in a 360 construct. And in 2020, and we were selling primarily in the hospital, Mike, that was the call point. Reimbursement didn't really exist in any meaningful way at the ASC side of care. And in 2020, that changed pretty dramatically. And CMS is going, as you guys know and see it across the board, they are pushing through the vehicle of reimbursement procedures into the ambulatory surgery setting. And so that became viable for us in 2020. At the same point in time, you see this, and really, to be fair, it had probably been building for the prior 10 years, but this emergence of interventional pain to become a real player in the space of treating patients. And so we began to say, you know what, I don't think it's a pure spine play company. I think it is a company that is a patient company, that is patient focused. And if that patient comes from the ortho or neurosurgeon, that's great. That's wonderful. Let's keep that going. But if it also comes from the appropriately trained, appropriately skilled interventional pain doctor, I think that's okay too. So the channel strategy has probably shifted for us, Mike, over time, from being pure spine to being pretty agnostic to where we're going. From what products we put in the portfolio, under Todd's leadership, he a number of years ago said, guys, I just don't want to be beholden to a single product. I don't think that's wise for our investors. I don't think it's wise for our company. We should be diversified. And also, we've built a direct sales force. So, Mike, our go-to-market has been a combination of both distributors and directs. And so we have it's a small direct sales force in place at this time. But we started looking at that going, man, that group is expensive, as you guys know. And what can we do to maximize? You've built, with no small amount of investment, no small amount of time, a pipeline into your surgeon interventional pain offices. So how can we maximize the flow through that pipeline? You put more water through the pipe. And for us, that was additional products. And when we evaluate an additional product, we're asking, is it unique, differentiated, IP protected? If it can't fit those 3 check boxes for us, it's not something that we're going to go do. And we said, what are our current customers already doing? What do they like? What are products that they are using? And how can we be in that space? And can we do something different? And so for us, some low-hanging fruit was SI products. So a lateral SI product in our Liberty, a posterior approach SI product in our Patriot. But that was an evolving, Mike, to your question, an evolving of the sales channel. This is how we're going to go after it and build it.
That's interesting. A hybrid channel. What were the particular challenges of that? And then the other question I would have is, you have 2 different call points. You have ortho neuro, which maybe I shouldn't combine those. Maybe they're separate.
Yeah.
And then you have the pain interventionalists. And oftentimes they're in practice together.
Yeah. More and more often you're seeing that, which is awesome.
And how it's not quite like the foot and ankle surgeon podiatry relationship. Is there a different approach, commercial approach you're taking with those 2 different customer segments?
Yeah, I think that there is a little bit of a different approach. They definitely, both segments, like to be sold differently. They value different things, each one. The reps that I'm most excited about, the distributor partners we're most excited about, are the ones that have the skill set to sell at both call points. That's where you really are the trifecta. You're hitting the 300 plus. If you have the skill set to call on your surgeons in your market and your interventional pain in your market, that's pretty attractive to us. Not everybody, that's okay. But what we want to be sure that we are doing is, Mike, we want Spinal Simplicity to be a catalyst or a voice in bringing our surgeon colleagues and our interventional pain colleagues together, not a wedge in driving them apart. And so whatever we do, whether it be our trainings, whether it be our society events, the events that we choose to sponsor, right, even how we interact in markets, it's targeted on bringing both of those groups together. We're not eating each other's lunch here. We are collaborating in a way that's better for everybody.
Something to that point, I want you to really think about this, because it's something that I've challenged the industry with. Being in this industry now 36 years, half of which has now been all M&A focused in some form or fashion. When I watched what was happening from a interventionalist versus spine doc, okay, or whoever, I was like, who is going to break this? Something's got to bring down this barrier. And I kept looking at it and I was like, it's not going to be the doctors in and of themselves. It's not going to be a society. It's not going to be a payer, right? It's going to be a company. And I really do believe that with the technology and the approach that has been taken by Spinal Simplicity, that you guys are creating the bridge between the two in a massive way, to where best practices are going to be learned by followers that come after you. And so I hope that folks are really paying attention to that, because it's been really cool to watch that bridge become built in the last 7 years, and to see that it's happening, and to see that the understanding of everybody working together for the greater good of the patient is becoming priority.
Oh,
So
that's kind of you. I'm happy that we get to be a part of it. I think we're a small part of it. I do see changes that are happening in the industry. You go look at NAS right now, and their membership is significantly expanded into interventional pain. You look at who is on the board and leading NAS right now. It's an interventional pain physician, and you see the transitioning happening. I think the story we always tell, or the analogy, is that of cardiothoracic surgery and cardiology. And you guys remember this. We've all lived through that. What happened there? There's this huge turf war. You have two totally backgrounds and skill sets and training physicians, but technological advancements allowed a different skill set physician to provide therapies and outcomes for a patient that often, not always, but often exceeded what the traditional methods and means were for that cardiothoracic surgeon and your cardiologist. And now when we have a heart attack, most of us, if not all of us, are going into a cath lab, and with a tiny incision, getting a stent placed or whatever it is need to be done. There's still a need we need to crack open your chest for sure, but that has really changed. Guys, the exact same thing. I tell people it is like a shot for shot remake in spine right now. And in the prior 5 years, you have a surgeon group who is very skilled and very good at what they do, probably on the slower side of adopting newer technologies. Technological advances, MIS procedures, techniques, devices have now allowed a different background and training physician to be able to participate. It's not to replace, it's not to do everything that the surgeon is doing, but a small portion of that to provide better outcomes for patients through MIS, through technology, through instrumentation. It's super interesting and fascinating. We think, biased here, fellas, but we think the ship has already sailed. It's not a question of whether or not the ship is leaving the dock. It's already out in the harbor, headed out to open water. Now the question is, how are the two groups going to integrate together? And so we are committed and want to be a part of bringing those two groups together. There are 10,000 patients a day, 10,000 boomers who are aging into the Medicare population every day, guys. There is more patient need than the entirety of the ortho and neuro community combined can address. And your patients are living longer and getting more comorbidities than what we've seen in the past. And so you have a lot of patients who need a solution and are not traditional surgical candidates for a lot of these reasons. And you've got to be able to provide a solution for it. Spinal Simplicity is a part of that. We're not the end all be all. We're somewhere in that treatment algorithm for that patient. But there's going to be other companies, and I think other investment opportunities for people that are watching to play a role in advancing the care for this huge aging, we call it the silver tsunami that is coming.
You're right. Yeah, it's a huge trend across the industry, which makes, I think, our industry very attractive to investors, I would hope. Demographics,
I feel like
and this is a global issue too, right? It's global. It's not just in the U.S. It's everywhere. And so,
there's definitely a turning in the investor community. I can see that. And what I mean by that is toward musculoskeletal more and more. Ortho is going to be a first player in that. Sports med, first player in that. Spine will be a fast follower in that. It's not going to always be the way it's been. It takes technologies and successes to wake up that investment community in spine.
Yeah. Two easy anecdotes to point to just recently. What did Stryker just do? They bought Vertos, an interventional pain call point company, and they divested to the VB, their spine business. It's not because spine business is, and I'm going to get out of my league here and talk about what or why Stryker did, but it's not because spine business is inherently a bad business. It's just not where the patients are first and primarily landing right now. It's not the growth market. And I would argue the exact same thing happened at Globus's purchase of Nevro. It's a great product, but I'm convinced they didn't primarily buy it for a great product. They bought it for a 400-person sales force at a call point that they're not very active in.
Yeah,
it is a growth market.
Yeah, and it's the same story. Let's don't forget Relievant. Right? And the fact of them coming in and being picked up. And then from that, it's another testimony towards these less invasive surgical solutions that can be performed in an ASC.
Yeah. Vertiflex, Relievant, Vertos.
Yeah.
There will be others for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Tim, we opened the show talking a little bit about tariffs. How are you operationally thinking about the potential impact of the tariffs on your supply chain?
Yeah, Mike, it's interesting you asked that. It's probably when we host our quarterly webinars with our investors or do our monthly newsletter, it's probably the number one question that we get asked from our investor base. Guys, what are you doing about tariffs? How bad is it going to hurt you or hit you? We've really prioritized building as much as we can, very close, probably 98% of everything that we do is in the U.S. For us, that's just been a philosophy, not because of what we thought was going to happen with tariffs. It's just we're fairly patriotic as a company, as you can see from the names, the Minuteman, it's the Patriot, it's the Liberty, we support the Navy SEALs. We like our country. We're grateful to be able to be here and be Americans, and we want to support it. And that philosophy is extended and carried over into where we choose to do our manufacturing. And so for us, the vast majority of what we manufacture is all domestic. We recently started expanding that a little bit for a few select items. I needed a unique injection molded handle that a U.S. owned company, but that has operations in Malaysia, could build for me. And we've dabbled in that. But for us, I'm grateful to be able to say so far, we have seen no impact. We've heard rumors from a couple of our vendors that, guys, it might be $2,500 here or $10,000 there. But across the board, we're watching it. But I have yet to see anybody come up and say, hey, there's going to be a huge hit to your COGS here or a huge gross margin dip because of what tariffs are doing. Yeah. That said, the bigger picture is, from an investor standpoint, is just overall portfolio value changes, the market's swinging, investors are skittish, it's harder to raise dollars in that environment. So that's a totally different side of the impact of tariffs.
Yeah. And to that point, I think it's going to be an interesting analysis that I know you guys will do, and I encourage every company to do, is look at where their COGS is today. And let's evaluate that as we creep into Q2 and Q3, and let's see where we come out on the back end of Q3.
Yeah.
Right. I think folks are going to be happily surprised.
Yeah. Probably more concerned with the inflationary impact of tariffs than I am about the tariffs specifically for us.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Tim, this has been great having you. You've been a wonderful guest. Where can interested parties find Tim McCown and Spinal Simplicity?
Yeah, I don't think there's any interested parties in Tim McCown, Mike, but they can find Spinal Simplicity, spinalsimplicity.com. We have a pretty active LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook presence. We publish a lot of what's going on. We always try to highlight new people that we're hiring and give those guys a shout out. We'll do all of our press releases, new product updates. We do a lot of patient-focused testimonials and videos. And so all of that stuff, just what do they say? Like and subscribe. Find us on LinkedIn and follow there. Find us at the website. Give us a call if there's anything that's specific that we want to talk about.
Awesome.
Anything you want to leave us with?
That's my hook right there.
I jumped the gun on the applause.
Well, I did. I definitely. If there's anything you want to leave us with that you didn't get a chance to say, speak now.
It's like a speak now or forever hold your peace kind of a thing, huh?
Yeah, man.
No, listen, fellas, I think what you're doing is special and important, and I'm really grateful to be a part of it. Thank you for letting me be on with you today. There's a lot of problems in healthcare. I think we'd all raise our hands and acknowledge that. But I'm excited about what technology, what entrepreneurs, tech-focused companies are doing to help patients and bring solutions. That's a small piece of a lot of the things that need to happen. But I'm grateful to be able to be a part of it at Spinal Simplicity. I'm thankful to be able to be on the show with you guys that are highlighting that. You're encouraging other companies to participate in our space, which is good for the investor community. It's good for our physicians, but most important, I think it's good for our patients, which are me and you and our moms and dads and sisters and brothers and cousins and everybody. So no, appreciate the opportunity. I've got nothing else, Chris. Is there anything you wanted me to cover that I didn't?
No, I think you nailed it for the time that we have. Like
Totally
you said
agree.
earlier, we could go on and go on because there's a lot to unpack when you run a successful business that everybody needs to learn from, and it's going to influence their better outcomes, hopefully.
Agree. Yep.
Well, that's going to be a wrap on the Masters edition of MedTech Jam Session.
Your Nance impression's pretty good.
Hello, friends.
Can we golf clap on the way out?
You may.
Thank you,
Thanks
guys.
for joining us, everybody.
It's great.